Welcome to another On Deck Baseball game tutorial video. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about pitcher's fatigue and how his effectiveness during the game can be directly impacted by situations that arise during the game or his advancement progression through the game, pitching additional innings past his max innings dictated by his stamina. What I have here is two score sheets. One score sheet I have is for the Knights. We have their lineup written down. Another score sheet is for the Gators. The pitcher that we're going to be using for this demonstration is Antonio Rivas, so I went ahead and put his name in as different attributes associated to him. And what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to go through a quick game, an imaginary game. I'm not going to be rolling. I'm just going to go through different situations that could occur and how that impacts your pitcher and your rotation moving forward. Let's take a look at the pitcher real quick, just to kind of go over a few different aspects of the pitcher's card that deal with fatigue. You'll notice first off that the stamina rating here is a 4. So what that means is that his max innings pitched during the game is 4. That is before he will incur any negative outcomes against his pitching attribute. So currently his pitching attribute to start the game is a -3, and then if you're going by the splits, a -2 against a left-handed batter and a -3 versus the right-handed batter. Once he reaches his max innings, if he pitched 4 innings, going into the 5th inning, you will need to roll on his fatigue chart. Now, this particular chart is actually derived using a combination of the stamina and the endurance. So if you're looking for a pitcher who has a decent fatigue chart, something that doesn't have a lot of possibilities for negative outcomes, you're going to want to look for positive, obviously positive, but higher numbers in both of these attributes. So the higher the stamina, the higher the endurance, the better his possibilities are for positive outcomes on the fatigue chart. So if Rivas pitches 4 innings and the manager decides to keep him in for the 5th, the manager or the user will have to roll on 1 inning past his max innings dictated by his stamina. So Rivas is 4. We would go into the 5th inning. We would have to roll on the 1 inning chart. If we roll a 1, 3, 4, or 7, then no change will occur on his pitching attributes. However, if we roll a 5, 6, 8, 9, or 10, then his pitching attribute will be affected. If we roll a 2, it's a -1, which means that for Rivas, his total pitching, his overall pitching attribute will go to a -2. So if you're playing a basic game, that's the only number you need to worry about. If you're going into pro or all-star, you're going to need to worry about the splits. So -1 will get taken off of the versus left-handed batter, which would make him go to a -1, and versus right-handed batter would go to a -2. Another thing you want to look at also for a pitcher dealing with fatigue issues and his effectiveness during the game is a poise. This pitcher's poise is a 2, which is not particularly high. It's a below average poise, and that is directly related to this chart. So what this means is that if the pitcher, the more runs that the pitcher gives up, the more likely he's going to have to roll on the poise chart. And if he rolls a negative outcome on this sad face chart or sad face column over here, that means that the runs have rattled him and you have to take off one of the pitching abilities, or -1 off of the pitching abilities. That being said, there are positive outcomes as well. If you roll 2 consecutive 1, 2, 3 innings, you get to roll on the happy face column of the poise chart, and he may get an additional -1 added to his pitching ability. So there are ways to lose pitching attributes. There are ways to gain pitching attributes. Now, depending on how well the pitcher pitches will dictate whether or not that occurs during a game, and managing your bullpen and managing your pitching staff, especially at the pro and all-star levels, is vital to making sure that you have a fully rested staff to be able to pitch in a game. So what I did also as we enter our game is I have fatigue tracker filled out for their rotation and their pitching staff. Obviously, you could tell if this was the case, their rotation and their bullpen has not been managed very well, and that's going to affect how we progress in the game. So what we'll do is quickly, we'll go through 1 inning and kind of go from there and see what happens. So we'll take the top of the 1st inning here, and we're just going to say that possibly Alcova did a walk. We'll say Gabriel flied out to right field, and Torres, we'll say, came up big and hit a home run, which scored Alcova. Garland strikes out, and Valenzuela does a ground out. We'll say 5-3. So that inning is over. What we're doing now is looking at the amount of runs. Only 2 runs were scored in that inning. If 3 runs are scored, and that's cumulative, not in any particular inning, but it could be in separate innings, then we would have to roll in a Poise chart. But we're not going to have anything affected with this particular inning. So going into the second inning, however, we're going to say that Cheney starts off the inning with a home run. So that home run, solo shot, brings his runs scored against him to 3. Being that we have 3 runs scored against us, we have to roll on the Poise chart, sad face. So I'm going to go ahead and take a standard die, a D10, and I'm going to roll, and it got a 6. That 6 is actually no outcome, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I am going to say that we actually did get a negative outcome, and we rolled a 5. So we're going to take that -1 and we're going to pop it here in his fatigue points. So what that means is, moving forward in the game, is that he is now a -2 overall in his pitching ability, and his versus left-handed batter goes down to a -1. His versus right-handed batter goes down to a -2. Now, moving forward with the rest of the game, we're going to say that he got out of that inning pretty well after that run was scored. So now moving into the third inning, he continues with the -1 and a -2 on his pitching rating. He does not get that back unless we get to roll on a positive Poise, which we're going to go kind of moving forward with now. So Alcova will lead off. We're going to say he strikes out. Gabriel is going to ground out, and we'll say that Torres grounded out as well. Now, that is 1-1-2-3 inning. He does not get the chance to roll on the Poise chart yet. It needs to be 2 consecutive innings. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. We're going to say Garland strikes out. Valenzuela will pop out to, let's say, the shortstop. And Cheney is going to strike out. So now that we have 2 consecutive 1-2-3 innings, we now get to roll on the happy face column of the Poise chart. We'll go ahead and roll. We got a 10. That would be no outcome. So if it was no outcome, what I do is I just put 1 there just so I know that we rolled on a Poise. But if he did roll a 1, 5, or 9, we would do a +1 here, and his attributes would go back to normal to a -2, -3. So we're going to also now enter the 5th inning, and we are going to roll on the fatigue chart going into the 5th inning, because we're going to continue on with Rivas. It looks like he had a couple of first rough innings from the 1st inning and 2nd inning, but he's kind of cruising in the 3rd and the 4th. And we're going to go ahead and roll on the fatigue chart. We get a 1, which is no change. So again, we're going to track that with just a 0.1. Now, we're going to say that he got another 1-2-3 inning. We'll go with a pop out to the catcher, a fly out to right field, and we'll say a ground out to the shortstop. Now that we have 3 consecutive 1-2-3 innings, we actually get to have an automatic +1 on our fatigue charts. We're going to go ahead and put a +1 here, and that means that Rivas is actually back to normal with a -3 overall and a -2 against left-handed batters and a -3 versus right-handed batters. Now, going into the 6th inning, we're going to say that he gets kind of lit up here. We're going to say a base hit by Alcova, a walk issued to Gabriel, Torres will fly out, and one of my favorite batters, Garland, is going to come up big time, and he's going to hit a home run and drive them all home. So that's 3 RBI home run. And because 3 runs were scored, we are going to have to roll on the Poise chart. We're going to roll. It's a 10, and we have a -1. So looking at this fatigue point tracker on the score sheet, we'll notice that the -1 and the +1 have canceled each other out, but now we have another -1. So that means that good old Antonio Rivas is back to a -1, -2 for his left-handed and right-handed versus attributes. So now we're going to say that Valenzuela kind of doesn't get a good grip of the ball, hits it to short right field and flies out. Cheney is going to do an old 6-3, ground out to the shortstop. So now if we're going to want to roll and get into the 7th inning, we're going to have to roll on the 3rd inning chart. We'll go ahead and do that. We have a 5. A 5 is a -2. Now, because we wanted to bring him into the game, he does get that -2. But also, you'll notice that a -3 cumulative will make this a 0 and not a 0. Anytime any attribute reaches 0, he has to come out. So he is going to go into the book with this, and we're going to go ahead and have to put in a relief pitcher. So all of my relief pitchers, and I did this on purpose, all have fatigue points attributed to them. They have not been fully rested. So bringing in a reliever, we're going to bring in a tired reliever. And what that means is that we have not rested or fully rested any of the pitchers in our bullpen, but we do have a couple that only have a -1 against them, which is McCaughey, Marino, and Garcim. Garcim is a closer, probably not a situation I would bring him in. So we're looking at Marino or McCaughey. Now Marino is a mop-up man. That's probably looking like how this game would go. Obviously, we don't have the offense of the other team, but they're, let's say, down by 6 runs. Now, if he comes in, he is a -1 on the fatigue tracker. He has not been fully rested. So that means he's going to come in as a -1, -1. Now, we do have we do have 3 innings that we have to go, so he would be the smart choice. Bringing in McCaughey, he would only have 1 inning. He is a -1. He would only go down to a -3, -2, which is better than Marino, but we would have to roll after the 1st inning. So not necessarily something I would want to do. We're going to go ahead and bring in Marino. And the way that I track that is that we're right in his stats, but this little box here, and I know it doesn't have a heading on the score sheet, but we would put a -1 here. And that is going to say that he is entering, sorry, that's the wrong pitcher. He is entering the game with a -1 already attributed to his pitching attributes. So he's going to be a -1, -1. So we're going to say that Marino comes in and lights up the offense of the Knights and strikes out the side. Now, striking out the side is something that will bring an automatic +1 to his pitching attributes. So we do not have to roll on the Poise chart. He is going to get a +1 on his chart. And now he moves up to a normal -2, -2. Now going into the 8th, we do not have to roll on him because his stamina is a 4. We're going to go ahead and say that Alcova strikes out. Gabriel grounds out. Torres will walk, and Garland will fly out deep to center. Now, remember, we took out our pitcher here, where Marino struck out the side. So now, going into the 9th inning, we're going to go ahead and just end this game. We're going to say that he strikes out, Cheney flies out to right, and Rowe will do a 6-3 to end the game. And we'll say that the Knights won the game. It doesn't really matter. Now what we're going to do is look at how the fatigue points attribute to the rest that your pitchers will need. We're going to go ahead and put a couple of things in here just for the purposes of finding out how much rest they will need. Rivas pitched 6 innings. Marino pitched 3 innings. We're not going to worry about the stats. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at our fatigue tracker. So now with our fatigue tracker, since we just played a game, the pitchers that are on the fatigue tracker now will get marked off circles. So we'll go ahead and mark off 1 game for each pitcher. You'll notice that McCaughey and Marino are here. We're going to mark off those. And every time a pitcher is fully rested or circles are crossed off completely, I go ahead and cross off the pitcher. And now we're going to enter our new guys. So playing at the all-star level, the innings are going to come into play as well as the appearance and whatever points that they accumulated during the game. So Rivas, he accumulated the -1 and the +1 here cancel each other out, but he accumulated -3 points overall for the game. He's going to get an additional -2 points, 1 minus point for every 3 innings pitched. He's going to get -2 for the 6 innings and a -1 for the appearance. So that is going to put him at 6. It's going to be kind of hard to come back from that. And now we look at Marino. His pitching attribute that we crossed off is not going to come into effect here because the -1 is already listed here. So he did pitch 3 innings, so he gets a -1 for that. He gets a -1 for the appearance, and he did come into the game with a -1 as well. So that means that Marino is going to come into the book with -3. So that means coming into the game with a tired pitcher is just going to make him more exhausted and a little bit harder to come back from with additional days rest. And Rivas, obviously, if we would have taken him out earlier, he would not have had all this to recover from. He did have a kind of a hard game, probably would have taken him out before that, also since he's a stamina of 4. So that is a little bit of the fatigue tracking. I hope I didn't go too fast for anybody. I tried to cover all the different possibilities within one game. There may be something else that arises or something else that is in the rule book that I did not cover. If you guys have any questions about any of those, please drop a comment. Several ways to reach me via email or the Delphi forums or even Facebook. But I hope you guys all found that interesting. I tried to make it as entertaining as possible, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.